Well, well, guys. Guess who was right about the Spurs the whole time? Yeah, it was me, not you. You guys are fools, all of you. I'm reading through the comments of my Spurs vs Timberwolves preview video, and oh my goodness, you guys, I needed that laugh, man. I really needed that laugh. Hello everyone and welcome back to Step Back with Zach, and in today's video I am going to be previewing the greatest series that we will ever watch, definitely of the 2020s, in the San Antonio Spurs versus the OKC Thunder in the Western Conference Finals, the de facto NBA Finals, many people are saying, and to be quite honest, I agree 1000%. Now, before we get into it, this is probably going to be a long video because there's so much to talk about, but there will be a lot of stuff that I miss or don't talk about because of the simple fact that I don't want to be here forever, and I'm sure that you guys don't want to as well. But man, it is here. The matchup that we all wanted, the matchup that we were all so excited for ever since the San Antonio Spurs beat the Thunder in that very first matchup of theirs after the Thunder started the season 24-1 and were on a 16-game win streak to ultimately lose to the San Antonio Spurs 107-105 in a game that not many people expected the Spurs to come out on top in, especially since Victor Wembanyama was coming off the bench, coming back from an injury. I am so excited about this matchup, but I'm also nervous at the same time. That is my Spurs fan side, but my NBA fan side is so gassed and is so excited. This is the first time since the 1998 finals where we saw the Michael Jordan-led Chicago Bulls and the Karl Malone, John Stockton-led Utah Jazz that two teams will be matching up in a playoff series who won 62 plus games respectively. This is going to be insane. And many people are so ecstatic about the fact that the San Antonio Spurs do beat the Minnesota Timberwolves because we all know that the Spurs are the best shot that we have as an NBA fan base to dethrone the OKC Thunder and just how dominant they have been. There are massive stakes on the line in this series, so many storylines. Who is the more dominant overall team? Since February 1st, the San Antonio Spurs are 34-3 when Victor Wembanyama plays 20 or more minutes, and the OKC Thunder are 28-1 when SGA plays. They are both seemingly unstoppable at the moment at full health. This is gonna be the matchup that begins the rivalry between the two teams that are gonna run the NBA for many years to come. And this is also the matchup that has the best player in the world implications on the line between SGA and Victor Wembanyama. Whoever is going to be the better player out of those two is ultimately the team I think is going to come out on top. And then, of course, the Wemby and Chet side of it, just going at it in a playoff series, knowing how much Wemby does not like Chet and how well Wemby plays against Chet. It's gonna be so exciting, man. I can't even begin to explain how ecstatic I am. When was the last time we saw two absolute heavyweight titans battle like this with so much on the line? This is going to be a monster defensive series. You think about it. You have the OKC Thunder, who are the best defense that we have seen probably ever, going up against the best defensive player we have probably ever seen, and the most impactful defender as well of all time in Victor Wembanyama. It's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be so damn fun. If Wemby and the San Antonio Spurs are able to knock off the OKC Thunder, I can guarantee you there will be parades in the streets of every other NBA fan organization out there because of the fact that the Thunder have lost. We all know how much people hate the OKC Thunder, but if the Thunder beat the Spurs and go on to win another title, this would just further cement how incredibly, historically dominant they really are, because the San Antonio Spurs are going to be the best team that they will be facing in between last year's playoffs and this year's playoffs as well, even if they make the finals. The Spurs are so ahead of schedule, and it is so exciting. SGA versus Wemby is going to be cinema. Now, let's get into some of the actual numbers and matchup points of this whole thing. That's what we're here to do, right? We're here to preview the series. So, if you guys were not aware, the San Antonio Spurs ended up absolutely dominating this matchup in the regular season, winning 4 out of 5 games and won by an average margin of 5.2. Because the one game that the OKC Thunder got, they ended up winning by 21 points, which is crazy, by the way, but they have proven that they are the only team that can really stand with the OKC Thunder. This is the only team that the Thunder reversed this entire season that they have a losing record against, and it is a bad losing record. But Game 5 of this matchup, I don't really count because of the simple fact that Chet Holmgren didn't play, J-Dub didn't play, and, you know, the reigning MVP and Finals MVP, SGA, also didn't play. The Thunder were running Brooks Barnheiser. All respect to that guy, but he's not at the same level of those other 3 guys I just mentioned, and that was a 116-106 victory from the Spurs, where Jay Will actually went kind of nuts. So shout out to him. So I'm very, very interested because of how badly the Thunder got beaten in the season series. I'm very interested to see how Coach Mark Daigneault and the rest of the OKC Thunder coaching staff is gonna deal with Wemby on defense, because as historically dominant as the OKC Thunder are, even they don't have an answer for what Victor Wembanyama can do to an offense when he is on the defensive side of the ball. That dude is so impactful, man. It was insane. And the fact of the matter is as well, Wemby only played an average of 25 minutes per game against the Thunder in the regular season because he was not healthy for 3 out of the 5 games. And even in that 4th game where, you know, the Thunder won, he still wasn't 100%. So Victor Wembanyama now coming in 100% and playing definitely an extended period of time. The dude doesn't even average 30 minutes in the playoffs at the moment. He's averaging just under 29. He's been so dominant. The Spurs have been so dominant that they haven't needed Wemby to play 30 minutes a game. So how can the Thunder solve the Victor Wembanyama problem? There's a few things that they can do. And to start with this, it's going to be very interesting to see what lineups Mark Daigneault is going to run against Victor Wembanyama. Now, what they have been doing is that they have been starting the double big lineup with Chet Holmgren at the 4 and Isaiah Hartenstein at the 5, but we know that Isaiah Hartenstein cannot shoot. The guy does not shoot threes. He doesn't even shoot mid-ranges very often, and having a player like that on the floor against Wemby is a death sentence. We saw what he was able to do against Alex Caruso in this matchup in the regular season. Caruso shot 2 for 12 from 3 against the Spurs. Pretty much all of which Wemby was roaming off of. We saw what Wemby did last series against the Timberwolves whenever he was matched up with Rudy Gobert. He was just roaming off in the paint and just causing mayhem down low and wreaking havoc for the Timberwolves offense. So will Mark Daigneault choose to bench Isaiah Hartenstein to start and have Chet Holmgren at the 5? Probably. This is a really, really good idea, I think, if you're Coach Mark Daigneault. Now, the thing with this is, with iHeart on the bench, who is really going to guard Victor Wembanyama? Because you have the really, really scrappy defenders of the OKC Thunder, like an Alex Caruso or a J-Dub or a Lou Dort, but the fact of the matter is that even though that these guys all have better defensive instincts than Julius Randle, they are not as strong as Julius Randle and are not as tall as Julius Randle. Wemby was still able to do whatever he wanted against Julius Randle. So if you stick J-Dub on Wemby, Wemby's just so easily able to finish over the top. There's really going to be nobody that is going to be able to protect the lob threat that is Victor Wembanyama, especially if Chet Holmgren is going to have to be guarding the perimeter, because I feel like Mark Daigneault is going to stick Chet Holmgren on Stephon Castle, just like we saw Chris Finch do with Rudy Gobert in Game 6, but if Steph Castle's going to continue to be the 44% three-point shooter that he has been in the playoffs so far, Chet Holmgren cannot roam off of him. And then if Chet gets a switch onto someone like a Champagnie or Devin Vassell with the De'Aaron Fox pick and roll with Victor Wembanyama, if Chet's going to come over and help, this gives up a corner three to one of the elite shooters that is a Devin Vassell or a Julian Champagnie. So without Isaiah Hartenstein on the floor, you give up so much size and physicality that can be used to keep Wemby out of the paint. But with Isaiah Hartenstein on the floor, this is going to cause Victor Wembanyama to just roam and create absolute mayhem and chaos for the OKC Thunder offense, especially with Shai and how much he likes to get to the paint. So this is what I mean when I say that it is going to be very, very interesting to see what they can do. Now, if Chet Holmgren is making his threes, this is going to be really, really important. However, like I said, I think that no matter what happens, Victor Wembanyama is probably going to be on someone who the Spurs deem as the weakest three-point shooter on the team, which might be a Lou Dort, or heck, it might even be a Chet Holmgren. We know that Chet's been really, really good in the playoffs so far. Like, he's averaging, I think, a little over 38% from three, but Chet really struggled in this matchup against the Spurs this season. I'll get into that in a little bit. But there's so many factors at play here because of just how just seemingly ridiculous Victor Wembanyama really is. There is no answer for him. And then plus, let's say, the ball is moving around, Shai's playmaking, AJ Mitchell's playmaking, whatever. What the San Antonio Spurs are so good at doing that the Phoenix Suns and the LA Lakers aren't, keep in mind that the Spurs are clearly a way better defense than both of those teams, is that the Spurs are able to switch and run and sprint and just, again, create that mayhem on the perimeter, which is going to allow Wemby to drop back, because wherever the ball's moving, the San Antonio Spurs players are going to run to, because they, just like the OKC Thunder, are super athletic and switchable on the perimeter. So Mark Daigneault has definitely got his work cut out for him. Chet Holmgren's definitely got his work cut out for him. So I'm very, very interested to see what the Thunder go with here. Now, SGA, obviously the best player on the OKC Thunder, is probably going to win his first MVP award, and by the time that you're watching this video, the MVP award has probably already been announced. For me, it is being released or announced tomorrow morning. So with Shai being probably the two-time back-to-back MVP winner, he is going to need to be so damn good in this series. Now, Shai, for his standards, has not been as impactful in the playoffs during his career. Like, he's still really, really good. He's still giving you north of 60% true shooting in this playoff run so far, but his scoring has dropped a little bit, and he's clearly been bothered by the physicality of defense, that especially against Marcus Smart. Apart from that game 5, SGA really wasn't that dominant, or the level of dominant that we know him to be. Now, Marcus Smart is definitely a dog, don't get me wrong, but Stephon Castle is a whole different beast. Marcus Smart is a former Defensive Player of the Year. He's a veteran. He's got more discipline. He's more of a hustler. But Stephon Castle is crazy. Like, he's just everywhere all at once. He's 6'7". He's way bigger than Marcus Smart. He's stronger than Marcus Smart. He's faster than Marcus Smart. So if he is the one that is going to be guarding Shai, it is going to be a tough series for Shai. SGA in this season series struggled for his standards. He still gave you 69.5 points per game across 4 games, but he did it on 59% true shooting, which is in fact his third lowest true shooting percentage against any team this season, and it is the most games that he's played. His worst true shooting percentage was against the Chicago Bulls, but he only played 1 game, and then his next lowest, which is actually, I'm pretty sure it's actually tied, so this is the second worst, but his other lowest true shooting percentage was against the Houston Rockets in only 2 games. So in 4 games, the San Antonio Spurs did a really, really good job of slowing Shai down as much as possible. Now, this 59% true shooting is actually 6.5% lower than his regular season average of 66.5%. And the thing is as well, Shai shot 38% from 3 during the regular season. Against the Spurs, this got chopped in half to 19% from 3. So Shai and his shooting is going to be really, really important because Victor Wembanyama is obviously going to take away so much at the rim, and even when he's off, obviously the Spurs are a lot more vulnerable in the paint, but Luke Kornet is still no slouch, and Luke Kornet actually did a really, really good job because remember, he started 3 of the games that Wemby didn't because he was coming off the bench. So it is going to be really, really important that Shai is on out of the gate as a pull-up jump shooter. If he's able to knock down those pull-up threes or the DHOs and he's just able to, get it from there, pull up from 3 or those off the dribble threes, this could be a really, really big swing factor. But then if he's not making those, how is he going to be as a playmaker? Because if he's going to drive into the paint, he's going to see Wemby, he's going to meet Wemby, and then how good is he going to be at kicking out? Is he going to be affected by the swarming defense that is the San Antonio Spurs? Who knows? But that is definitely one of the biggest key factors for the OKC Thunder. Is Shai going to be on as a pull-up jump shooter? Because again, he really hasn't been as great recently, and especially against the Spurs, so this is super important. And then outside of that, how is his playmaking going to be? Because obviously he's going to be guarded by an incredible perimeter defender at all times. Between Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, Devin Vassell, and Carter Bryant, SGA is going to have to absolutely work his tail off, and he is going to need to be the best player in this series if the Thunder want to win. The OKC Thunder shooters as well also need to be on, especially Chet Holmgren, for, like I mentioned before, those kick-out passes that will be generated from a Shai or an AJ Mitchell. When the Spurs defense collapses, it is important that they knock down their shots. Now, luckily for them, they have actually been really, really good at their three-point shooting in the playoffs. They are second in made threes in the playoffs so far. But again, this is really not something that the Thunder, are relied on to do, if that makes sense. But if they are making their threes, it is going to force Vic to go out on the perimeter, which is going to free up the paint for a Shai, for an AJ Mitchell. Now, speaking of Chet Holmgren, like I was earlier, Chet really struggled in this season matchup. Like, I know I said Shai struggled, but Chet really struggled. He only averaged 10.5 points per game, 8 rebounds, and less than 1 assist on 39% from the field, 20% from 3, for a terrible 53% true shooting and a 42 effective field goal percentage. Now, Chet has been incredible in the playoffs, playing like a top 20 NBA player. Like, he's shooting 37 for 38 in the restricted area, but obviously going up against Victor Wembanyama, these looks are not going to be easy at all. So this number is definitely not going to be as high, but he's still going to need to be this really insane, dominant, second best player for the OKC Thunder that he has been. Now, this is obviously the best defense and the most physical defense that he is going to be facing during this playoff run, because who on the Lakers was going to guard him? Honestly, I don't even remember who was guarding him, but he could just do whatever he wanted. But against Vic and against Luke Kornet and against Keldon Johnson and these bigger, more physical defenders, how is he going to do? I've got no idea. Chet has always struggled against Victor Wembanyama. And then another really big question I have for the Thunder is J-Dub going to be healthy enough to be impactful? When is he coming back? Is he going to play in game 1? I've got no idea. But is he going to be impactful enough because of this hamstring injury to remain competitive against the Spurs? Now, he was luckily enough able to rest the entire Lakers series because of the fact that his team is just so good. So hopefully he's recovered enough to be able to go out there and play. And he is probably going to be the primary matchup against Victor Wembanyama. But if he's a step slow, this could be very, very detrimental. J-Dub is such a big question for the OKC Thunder. And then AJ Mitchell as well, someone who has definitely proven himself to be such a key, important piece to this Thunder team, because against the Suns, he was incredible. Against the Lakers, he was incredible. But the thing is, I think a lot of people are overlooking the fact that, once again, those two teams are not the Spurs, and they are nowhere near as good at defense as the Spurs, especially the Lakers. Now, that is not me discrediting AJ Mitchell because he's so good. I really, really enjoy watching AJ Mitchell. I've given him all his credit. He is so good, but he is also going to need to be elite as a pull-up shooter, and he's not as good of a three-point shooter as Shai, so this is going to be interesting to see how that dynamic works, and the intermediate shot creation is going to also need to be really, really imperative because of what Wemby does at the rim. But speaking of Victor Wembanyama, guys, you cannot expect this to be a Spurs video without Victor Wembanyama glaze. He is posting historic numbers in the NBA playoffs on the defensive side of the ball. In the playoffs, Victor Wembanyama has a defensive field goal percentage of 35%. This means that opponents, when guarded by him or when he is contesting the shot, are only shooting 35%, which is down 14.4% from league average. This is a number that I, quite frankly, have never seen before. Victor Wembanyama in the regular season was still elite at this, but he was holding opponents to 9% below league average. So this is just completely blowing that out of the water. He is also only allowing opponents to shoot 46% at the rim when contested by him, which is 19% below league average. Again, just completely taking away anything at the rim. And again, something I have never ever seen before. The Spurs have a 98.9 defensive rating when he is on the court, which is a negative 13.5 relative defensive rating, which is crazy. The Spurs are 11.5 points better defensively when he is on the court. And he is also averaging the most blocks per game in NBA playoff history at 4.1. And I get that it is on a very small sample size, but come on, man. Come on. His opponents, when Wemby is on the court, there is an 11% rim attack frequency when he's on the court compared to not. This means that with him on the court, his opponents attack the rim 11% less because of how impactful he is. His rim deterrence alone is so valuable. It is probably the most valuable thing in the NBA today. And keep in mind, all of this is against teams who love and who thrive at scoring in the paint, in the Portland Trail Blazers with Denny Avdia and the Minnesota Timberwolves with Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, and Jaden McDaniels. So this is not against just any team. This is historic dominance that we have never seen before. Stephon Castle as well is the second most important defensive piece on the Spurs team. He has been so good, especially in the second half of the season. His defense is so good. His POA defending ability is insane. His strength is insane. He can genuinely guard 1 through 4 comfortably. We saw him matched up against Julius Randle in the Minnesota Timberwolves series, and he completely shut him out. He literally only let Julius Randle score 3 points in a closeout game. But his defensive impact is going to be so important. He is going to need to have a massive defensive series. Now, I'm not 100% sure who Coach Mitch Johnson is going to start on Shai. I'm going to assume that it is going to be Steph, because Steph is the best perimeter defender out here. But in the Timberwolves series, we saw Devin Vassell guarding Anthony Edwards, and he did an incredible job. But obviously, Ant is nowhere near as good on the offensive side of the ball as SGA. So I also think it depends on who they actually start. I'm talking about the OKC Thunder here, but I do think that it is going to be Steph who is going to be starting on SGA. I would not be surprised if Devin Vassell is the one guarding him, but I do think that the better matchup is Steph. Not Shai. How can Shai guard himself? But I do think the better matchup is going to be Steph, because we saw what Marcus Smart was able to do. But again, Marcus Smart is nowhere near as important offensively as Stephon Castle is. So I really have no idea. But then outside of that, like again, Dylan Harper coming off the bench is an insane defender. He's not as good as Stephon Castle, but he's still really, really good. And then CB, Carter Bryant, proved that he can be a really, really, really important defensive piece as well. He was really, really, really solid against Anthony Edwards in the limited time that he got to play. So will he get minutes against Shea? Who knows? But the Spurs perimeter defenders are gonna need to be on at all times. Like I briefly mentioned before, they are really, really good at switching on the perimeter. They are super athletic and they're quick. But because of the fact that the Thunder are going to do everything they can to pull Wemby out of the paint, it is so important for them to be constantly switching to not allow any room for Victor Wembanyama to be pulled away from the paint. And luckily for them, they can definitely do that. The Spurs really are the only team that can match up defensively with the OKC Thunder and cause them fits. Now, obviously, OKC is the better defensive team with Lou Dort, J-Dub, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso. But then the Spurs are also really, really, really good defensively. Like, they are so... I think a lot of the Spurs role players are overlooked defensively, like a Devin Vassell, who proved how important he is. Julian Champagnie is no slouch on defense. Calvin Johnson is a big body. He's strong. So he's really good on defense. I think that he could probably give Chet some problems as well if Calvin Johnson comes in against him. And then Carter Bryant as well is really, really good. Dylan Harper as well is really, really good. So this is, like I mentioned before, I'm so excited for the defense of this series, man. Now, both teams need to not turn the ball over because these are the two best transition teams in the NBA and in the playoffs. But both of these teams score so often off turnovers, especially the Thunder. A big reason that the Spurs were able to beat the Thunder as many times as they did is that the Spurs did a really, really good job of keeping the ball secure and not letting the Thunder turn them over as much as they normally would against other teams. Now, in every single matchup that we saw this season, neither side was ever fully healthy. Like I mentioned, Victor Wembanyama was coming off the bench for 3 of these games. AJ Mitchell missed significant time. Isaiah Hartenstein missed significant time. Devin Vassell missed some time. So the last time that we saw these teams probably at the most healthy was in Game 4. But even in that, there was no Devin Vassell and there was no Isaiah Hartenstein. So now, fully healthy, well, I'm pretty sure anyway. I'm still not sure if J-Dub's going to be starting Game 1 or playing in Game 1. I'm going to go on a limb and say that he is, but health is going to be very, very important in this series as well. But since this matchup, the Game 4, because again, that Game 5 really doesn't count, this game was on the 13th of January, which is a long time ago. And from then, both of these teams have grown so much, especially the Spurs, who went 43-10 since that loss to the OKC Thunder. This includes the playoffs. Like I mentioned before, Stephon Castle has grown so much. He has become one of the best NBA players. His two-way impact has become so important. His finishing at the rim has become so important. His playmaking has become so important. And then there's Dylan Harper as well, who is looking so damn good. I cannot sing the praises of Dylan Harper enough. That dude is incredible. There is nothing that he can't do on the floor. He's so good. He's going to be so important for this team as well, providing some very, very valuable offense for the Spurs. And then AJ Mitchell for the Thunder has also shown how important he is in the absence of J-Dub, and he's grown an awful lot as well. And then Chet Holmgren has just been really solid as well. So it's kind of almost like we're seeing two different teams than we have during the regular season, especially from the Spurs. The second half of the season, the Spurs with Wemby on the court have looked virtually unstoppable. And just like as well, with Shea on the court, the Thunder have looked virtually unstoppable. So this really is just going to be a clash of the Titans, man. One of the biggest problems, though, that I have not yet addressed is De'Aaron Fox. Now, De'Aaron was very solid, decent, I'd say, against the OKC Thunder this year. He averaged a little over 17 points per game on 61.5% true shooting. But in the playoffs, and how inconsistent he can be, and the lack of good decision-making, and then how he's going to deal with the physicality is such a big question. I'm really not sure how De'Aaron Fox is going to be in this series because he is really, really thin, and he did versus Jaden McDaniels, or he was being guarded by Jaden McDaniels, I should say, in that Minnesota Timberwolves series. Jaden McDaniels is way taller than probably anybody that De'Aaron is going to be matched up against the Thunder, but every single Thunder defender is more physical than Jaden McDaniels. I don't know how De'Aaron Fox is going to deal with the physicality, especially if you get a Lou Dort on him. So I just hope that De'Aaron Fox has his brain screwed on. I'm glad that he was able to finish the series with a bang. He had an incredible Game 6, so hopefully that translates and carries on to this series, but I'm really not sure. I think De'Aaron Fox is a very, very big question mark. So, to recap, the biggest keys for each team. The OKC Thunder, it is going to be SGA's pull-up shooting and his playmaking. If he's on as a jump shooter, this could be very, very scary for the Spurs. Speaking of shooting, the OKC Thunder shooters in general just need to be on. And it's going to be very, very interesting because is Jared McCain and Isaiah Joe, are they going to get very many minutes in this series because they are defensive holes, which is a rare thing on this Thunder team, but as incredible of shooters that they are, the Spurs will attack them and they will go at them just like they did Mike Conley. Chet Holmgren, what is he going to do in this series? Is he going to be better than he was in the regular season? I certainly think so, but he needs to step up and play in a big way and continue to be the Thunder's second best player. J-Dub's health, what's he going to look like? AJ Mitchell, who of them is going to be the second option in terms of the shot creation and the general offensive creation for the OKC Thunder? And which of them is going to give the team juice when Shea is off the court or is just getting smothered? And then finally, they need to be scoring quickly before the Spurs can get set, specifically Victor Wembanyama scoring before he's able to establish paint presence, which is a lot easier said than done. And for the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama just needs to continue to do what he does. He's incredible, needs to stay disciplined, needs to not let the physicality get to him because this Thunder team is going to be way more physical than the Timberwolves, so that's super important. Julian Champagnie and Devin Vassell are going to need to be money from the corners because we know that the Thunder like to give up corner threes as the only shot that they really are willing to let up. Perimeter defenders need to be on 100% of the time to allow Victor Wembanyama to stay in the paint. Will the youth prove to be fatal? It certainly hasn't looked that way so far. And can Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox, and Dylan Harper protect the ball and limit their turnovers just like they did in the regular season? Overall, this series is going to be insane, and in my opinion, it will go down as one of the all-time classics. These teams just match up so well. Two absolute titans. And because of all of these factors, I really have no idea who is going to come out of this series. I cannot give a definitive prediction as I feel like my mind will change all the time. On paper, the Thunder should win because they've got the experience. They've got the better overall team. They are coming off an NBA championship. But the Spurs have proven all season that they are one of the two best teams in the NBA and have proven themselves also to be the Thunder's kryptonite. So there really is so much more that I can say when it comes to this series, just diving in as deep as I possibly can. But I don't want to be here for so long. This video is already going to take a while to edit anyway. So I think for right now, as much as I hate to say it, I'm going to go with OKC in 7. But again, I could change my mind just because of how incredible Victor Wembanyama is. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know it was a long one and I appreciate you sitting through it all if you made it this far. Let me know down in the comments below. Also, let me know who you have coming out of the series and why you are hoping it's going to be the Spurs because I know so many people hate the Thunder. Thank you guys for watching and as always, I'll see you in the next one.